She knocked on the window of a car worth more than her entire life. And the man inside didn't turn her away. In a city where power means survival and mercy is a luxury no one can afford, one desperate mother was about to discover that sometimes salvation comes from the most dangerous places. Sometimes the person who saves you is the one the whole world fears. Welcome to Redemption Chronicles, where broken souls find second chances in the shadows, and love becomes the most rebellious act of all. If you believe that even the most ruthless hearts can change, hit that subscribe button and smash the like to support stories that'll make you believe in hope again. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, let's see how one freezing night changed 3 lives forever. The wind sliced through Sarah Mitchell's threadbare coat like 1,000 frozen blades. She pressed her daughter tighter against her chest, feeling the small body burn with fever through the thin fabric. Christmas Eve. The whole city sparkled with lights and laughter. Families gathered around fireplaces, children opening presents under glittering trees. But Sarah and 3-year-old Lily had nothing. No home, no money, no one. Her feet had gone numb inside her worn sneakers 2 blocks ago. Snow soaked through the holes in the soles, each step sending sharp pain up her legs. But she couldn't stop. Travis would be looking for her. Her ex-husband, ex-cop, current, nightmare, had connections everywhere. 3 days ago, she'd finally run. Grabbed Lily in the middle of the night and fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs and $17 in her pocket. $17 that was gone now. Spent on a bus ticket that got them to Chicago. To nowhere. Lily coughed weakly, the sound rattling in her tiny chest. Sarah's heart clenched. The fever had started yesterday, getting worse by the hour, but the free clinic was closed for the holiday. The shelters were full. The churches had locked their doors. She stumbled into a narrow alley between 2 warehouses, desperate for a break from the wind. Her vision blurred with exhaustion and unshed tears. 4 years of marriage to Travis had taught her many things. How to cover bruises with makeup. How to lie to doctors about broken ribs. How to keep her daughter quiet during the worst of it. How to survive. But she didn't know how to survive this. "Mama, I'm cold," Lily whimpered, her small hand clutching Sarah's jacket. "I know, baby. I know." Sarah's voice cracked. She looked down at her daughter's face. Pale, lips tinged blue, eyes glassy with fever. 3 years old, and already she'd witnessed things no child should see. Already she'd learned to hide, to stay silent, to make herself small. Sarah would die before she let Travis touch her again. Through the falling snow, she saw it. A black car gleaming in the darkness. Expensive, sleek. The engine running, white exhaust curling, into the frozen air. Someone was inside. Every instinct Sarah had developed over 4 years of abuse screamed at her to walk away. Strange men in dark alleys meant danger. But Lily's burning forehead against her neck screamed louder. She moved toward the car on legs that barely held her, raised a trembling fist, knocked on the tinted window. 1 second. 2. The window rolled down. Sarah's heart stopped. 2 gun barrels pointed directly at her face. Behind them, 2 men in black suits stared at her with cold, measuring eyes. And behind them, partially hidden in shadow, sat a man who radiated power, like other people radiated heat. He was tall. She could tell even sitting down. Broad shoulders in a perfectly tailored black suit, dark hair styled with precision, a face carved from stone, all sharp angles and hard edges. But his eyes stopped her cold. Dark brown, almost black, watching her with an intensity that stripped away every defense she had. "What do you want?" His voice was deep, controlled, completely emotionless. Sarah should have run. Every survival instinct she possessed told her this man was dangerous in ways Travis had never been. but Lily coughed again, the sound desperate and rattling, and Sarah made her choice. "Please, sir." Her voice shook, teeth chattering. "My daughter has a fever. Could we just sit in your car for a moment, just to warm up? I'm begging you." The two armed men looked at each other, then back at their boss, waiting for orders. The silence stretched. Wind howled through the alley, snow stinging Sarah's face. She didn't step back, didn't look away. She wrapped both arms around Lily and prepared to die if necessary, as long as her daughter got warm. The man in the car leaned forward, stepping into the thin light from a distant street lamp. His face remained expressionless, but those dark eyes moved from Sarah's face to the fading bruise on her cheekbone, to the way she held her child like someone might rip her away, to the torn shoes and coat that couldn't keep anyone warm in spring, let alone winter. "Lower your weapons," he said quietly. "Boss, she could be—" "I said lower your weapons." The guns dropped. The man opened the car door and stepped out. He was even taller than Sarah had thought, easily over 6 feet, with an athletic build that spoke of both power and precision. He removed his black cashmere coat and draped it over her shoulders without a word. The warmth hit Sarah like a physical blow. She almost sobbed. "Get in the car," he said. The child has a fever. You're hypothermic. Get in the car now." Sarah didn't know who he was. Didn't know she'd just knocked on the window of Dominic Castellano, the man who controlled every criminal operation in South Chicago. Didn't know this man had ordered deaths she couldn't count. She only knew he was offering survival, and she took it. She climbed into the vehicle, Lily burning against her chest. The interior was warm, leather seats soft beneath her. She sank down, feeling sensation return to her frozen limbs in painful waves. Dominic slid in beside her, filling the space with his presence. He tapped once on the partition. The car rolled forward silently, leaving the alley behind. Sarah held Lily tighter and didn't ask where they were going, didn't ask who he was. She only knew that for the first time in 3 days, her daughter was warm, and for reasons she would never understand, this dangerous stranger had chosen not to turn them away. The car glided through empty streets, Chicago's south side passing in a blur of snow and shadow. Sarah sat rigid against the leather seat, hyper-aware of the man beside her. He hadn't spoken since they left the alley. Hadn't looked at her. Just sat there, perfectly still, radiating controlled danger. Lily stirred in her arms, whimpering. Sarah pressed her lips to her daughter's burning forehead, fighting panic. The fever was getting worse. "How long has the child been sick?" Dominic's voice cut through the silence. Sarah flinched. 2 days. Started as a cold. Got worse yesterday. Has she seen a doctor? Free clinic was closed. Everywhere was closed. Sarah's voice came out defensive. She hated explaining her failures as a mother to this stranger. Dominic pulled out his phone, dialed without looking away from the window. Spoke rapid Italian. Sarah caught one word repeated several times. Bambina. Child. When he finished, he slipped the phone back into his pocket. "A doctor will be waiting when we arrive." "Arrive where?" "My home." Sarah's breath caught. We can't go to your home. You don't even know us." "You knocked on my window begging for help. I'm providing it." He turned to look at her finally, those dark eyes unreadable. "Unless you'd prefer I drop you back in that alley." Sarah held his gaze, searching for cruelty, for the trap. She'd learned to read men's intentions in their eyes. Travis had taught her that. But this man's eyes revealed nothing, just cold calculation and something else she couldn't name. "Why are you helping us?" she whispered. Because your daughter needs a doctor, and you need to get warm before you freeze to death." He said it like he was discussing the weather, as if helping complete strangers was a logical business transaction. The car turned onto a wider street, then through massive iron gates that opened automatically. Sarah's eyes widened. A mansion rose before them, all stone and glass and impossible wealth. Warm light spilled from dozens of windows. Guards in black suits patrolled the grounds, their breath visible in the frozen air. "Who are you?" Sarah breathed. "Someone who can help." It wasn't an answer at all. The car stopped before carved oak doors 3 times Sarah's height. Dominic exited first, then opened her door. She climbed out on shaking legs, Lily heavy in her arms. The borrowed coat smelled like expensive cologne and leather, like power. Inside, the mansion swallowed them in warmth and luxury that hurt to look at. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors so polished Sarah could see her reflection. Pale, exhausted, holding a sick child. She didn't belong here. This was a different universe. An older woman appeared, silver hair in a neat bun, kind eyes taking in Sarah and Lily with practiced assessment. "Mrs. Romano," Dominic said quietly. "Prepare the east guest room. Dr. Rossi is on his way." The woman, housekeeper, Sarah guessed, nodded, without question. "This way, dear." Sarah looked at Dominic. He'd already turned away, 2 guards following him down a different hallway, leaving her with a stranger in his palace. "Come, child," Mrs. Romano said gently. "Let's get you and the little one settled." Sarah followed on numb feet up a sweeping staircase, down a hallway lined with closed doors, into a room larger than the entire apartment she'd shared with Travis. A king-size bed with white linens, red velvet curtains, a fireplace, crackling softly. Bathroom with marble and gold fixtures. "I'll bring warm clothes and soup," Mrs. Romano said. "Dr. Rossi will be here shortly." She paused at the door. "Mr. Castellano is a dangerous man, but he doesn't hurt women and children. You're safe here." The door closed softly, leaving Sarah alone with 1,000 questions. She laid Lily on the enormous bed, brushing damp hair from her daughter's forehead. The child's eyes opened halfway. "Mama, where are we?" "Somewhere warm, baby. Somewhere safe." "Are we going home?" Sarah's throat closed. They had no home. "We're staying here for a little while, until you feel better." Lily's eyes drifted shut again. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her body finally registering warmth, exhaustion crashing over her in waves. She should leave. Should grab Lily and run, before whatever debt this help incurred came due. Men like Dominic Castellano, because she'd heard that name before, in whispered news reports, in stories about Chicago's criminal underworld. Men like him didn't help people for free. But Lily coughed weakly, and Sarah knew she wasn't going anywhere. 20 minutes later, a gentle knock. An older man with white hair entered, black bag in hand. Dr. Rossi examined Lily with practiced efficiency, while Sarah hovered, answering questions about symptoms, timeline, medical history. "Pneumonia," the doctor said finally, his accent Italian but his English perfect. "Early stage. Treatable with antibiotics and rest." He pulled medication from his bag, writing detailed instructions. "She needs warmth, fluids, and these twice daily. She'll improve within 48 hours. Sarah wanted to cry. I can't pay. Already handled." Dr. Rossi smiled kindly. "Mr. Castellano takes care of his guests." After he left, Mrs. Romano returned with soup, bread, and clothes. Simple but clean. Soft sweater, comfortable pants. Nothing expensive. Nothing that made Sarah feel like charity. She fed Lily, medicine and broth, then tucked her under warm blankets. Her daughter slept finally, breathing easier. Sarah changed into the borrowed clothes, then couldn't help herself. She explored the bathroom, ran her fingers over marble that probably cost more than she'd earned in a year as a diner waitress. Looked at her reflection in the gold-framed mirror. The bruise on her cheek had faded to yellow-green. Travis's parting gift 3 weeks ago, the night she'd finally run. She turned away from her reflection and returned to Lily's side. Sat in an armchair by the fireplace, watching her daughter sleep. For the first time in days, maybe months, Sarah let herself breathe. A knock at the door made her tense. She stood, placing herself between the door and her daughter instinctively. Dominic entered without waiting for permission. He'd removed his jacket, wore only a crisp white shirt with sleeves rolled to his forearms. Less intimidating, but only slightly. The doctor said pneumonia. It wasn't a question. Yes, he gave her antibiotics, said she'll be better soon. Sarah forced herself to meet his eyes. Thank you. For the doctor, for this room, for everything. But we can't stay. I don't have money to repay you. I didn't ask for payment. Men always want something. Something flickered in those dark eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. Stay until the child recovers. 3 days. 4. However long it takes. Then you can go wherever you want. Just like that? Just like that. Sarah studied him, searching for the lie. Why? Dominic was silent for a long moment. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Because I once watched someone I love die from something that could have been treated. If I could have gotten her help. He stopped, looked away. The child needs medicine and rest. I can provide both, that's all. It was the most human thing he'd said, the most vulnerable. And Sarah recognized pain when she saw it, even in a man made of stone. Okay, she whispered. 3 days, until Lily's better. Then we'll leave. Dominic nodded once and turned to go. Mr. Castellano. He paused at the door. What do I call you? He looked back at her, and for just a second something softened in his face. Dominic. Just Dominic. Then he was gone, leaving Sarah alone in a palace, wondering what kind of dangerous man saved strangers in alleys on Christmas Eve. 3 days became 4, then 5. Lily's fever broke on the second morning, and by the third day, she was sitting up, asking questions, her color returning. Sarah should have left then, should have taken her healthy daughter and disappeared back into the city. But something kept her there. Maybe it was the warmth. Maybe the safety. Maybe the way Dominic looked at Lily when he thought no one was watching. Mrs. Romano offered Sarah work. Light housekeeping, helping in the kitchen. Nothing demanding. But enough to make Sarah feel useful instead of like a burden living on charity. She accepted gratefully, needing the dignity of earning her place. Sarah learned the mansion's rhythms quickly. Guards changed shifts at 8 and midnight. Mrs. Romano cooked breakfast at 6:30. Dominic left for business most mornings, returned late. And when he was home, men in expensive suits came and went through his study, voices low, doors closing. Sarah didn't ask questions, didn't want to know what happened behind those closed doors. She focused on Lily, on keeping her daughter happy and healthy, on pretending they could stay in this warm bubble forever. On the 5th day, something shifted. Sarah was in the library, dusting shelves lined with leather-bound books, when she heard it. Lily's laugh, clear and bright, echoing from the living room. Sarah froze, dustcloth in hand. She hadn't heard her daughter laugh in months, not since before the last time Travis. She moved to the doorway and stopped. Dominic sat on the marble floor, the most feared man in South Chicago, in a $3,000 suit, sitting cross-legged on cold marble. Building blocks were scattered around him, and Lily sat across from him, pink pajamas and messy curls, instructing him very seriously on how to build a castle. "No, that one goes here," Lily said, pointing. "The tower has to be tall." Dominic studied the wooden block in his hand, with the same intensity Sarah had seen him use reviewing documents with his men. "Like this?" "Yes. You're good at this. I had a good teacher." Lily's beamed. She handed him another block, their small interaction so natural, so easy. And Dominic's face, the stone mask had cracked. Not much. Just enough to show something softer underneath. Sarah's chest tightened. This dangerous man, this killer, because she knew what he was now, had pieced it together from overheard conversations, from the way everyone in the house moved around him with careful respect, was sitting on the floor playing with her daughter like it was the most important meeting of his life. "Mama!" Lily spotted her. "Look! Dom is helping me build a castle." "Dom, not Mr. Castellano, not Sir, just Dom." Dominic looked up, caught Sarah watching. For a second, something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of something neither wanted to name. "It's very beautiful, baby," Sarah managed. "Can Dom read me a story tonight?" Sarah opened her mouth to say no, that Mr. Castellano was too busy, that they were leaving soon anyway. But Dominic spoke first. "If your mother says it's okay." Two sets of eyes turned to Sarah, one brown and innocent and hopeful, one dark and guarded and waiting. "Okay," Sarah whispered. "One story." That night, after dinner, which Dominic actually joined them for, sitting at the head of the long table, while Lily chatted about her castle, and Mrs. Romano served pasta that made Sarah want to cry, it was so good. Sarah tucked Lily into bed. "Is Dom going to read now?" Lily asked. "Yes, baby. He'll be here. Soon. I like him, Mama. He's nice." Sarah smoothed her daughter's hair. "I know you do. Are we going to stay here?" The question pierced Sarah's heart. "Baby, we can't." A knock interrupted. Dominic stood in the doorway, holding a book. "Is this a bad time?" "No," Lily said immediately. "Come in. Mama said you'd read to me." Dominic entered, and Sarah made space on the edge of the bed. He sat, careful not to sit too close, and opened the book. A fairy tale, classic princess story. His voice, reading, was different. Softer. The hard edges smoothed away. Lily leaned against his arm unconsciously, like she'd known him forever instead of 5 days. And Dominic let her, his body relaxing incrementally. Sarah watched from the armchair, her throat tight. This was dangerous. Not because Dominic might hurt them. She was starting to believe Mrs. Romano's words, that he truly didn't hurt women and children. Dangerous because Lily was getting attached. Because Sarah could feel herself, softening toward this man who should terrify her. When the story ended, Lily was already half asleep. "The princess got saved," she mumbled. "By the prince." "She did," Dominic said quietly. "Mama says we don't need saving. We save ourselves." Dominic glanced at Sarah. She held his gaze, defiant. Yes. That's what she taught her daughter. That they didn't need men to rescue them. "Your mama is right," Dominic said, surprising her. "The best princesses save themselves. But sometimes it's okay to accept help from a friend. Are you our friend, Dom?" Silence stretched. Sarah waited for him to deflect, to give some non-answer. Instead, "Yes, I'm your friend." Lily smiled and closed her eyes. Dominic stood carefully, set the book on the nightstand. He moved toward the door, and Sarah followed him into the hallway. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Read her a story? Lie to her. Tell her you're her friend." Dominic stopped, turned to face her fully. They were close in the narrow hallway, close enough that Sarah could see the flecks of black in his dark brown eyes. I wasn't lying. You barely know us. I know enough. He studied her face, and Sarah fought the urge to look away. The bruise on your face. That's why you ran. It wasn't a question. Sarah's hand rose instinctively to her cheek, even though the mark had faded. I fell. Don't. His voice was soft but firm. Don't lie to protect him. I'm not. I saw how you flinched when I first opened the car door. How you put yourself between your daughter and any perceived threat. How you watch exits constantly. I know what those things mean, Sarah. Hearing her name in his deep voice did something to her, made her feel seen in a way that was both terrifying and comforting. His name is Travis, she heard herself say. My ex-husband. 4 years of... She couldn't finish. Dominic's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Where is he now? Looking for me. He's an ex-cop. Has connections. He'll find me eventually. He always does. Not here. He won't find you here. You can't promise that. Yes, Dominic said, his voice dropping to something almost dangerous. I can. They stood there in the dim hallway, something electric humming between them. Sarah should be afraid, should run. But instead, she felt safer than she had in years. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Dominic reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, brushed his thumb across her cheek where the bruise had been. The touch was gentle, reverent almost. Because no one helped my mother, he said quietly. And I watched her die for it. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Sarah trembling in the hallway with the ghost of his touch on her skin. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. Dominic's words echoed in her mind. Because no one helped my mother. And I watched her die for it. She understood trauma, understood the scars violence left, the ones that never showed on skin. But she hadn't expected to find those scars on a man like Dominic Castellano. The next morning, she found Mrs. Romano in the kitchen, kneading bread dough with practiced efficiency. Can I ask you something? Sarah said quietly. The older woman looked up, knowing already what Sarah would ask. About Mr. Dominic's mother. He mentioned her last night, said no one helped her. Mrs. Romano's hands stilled. She wiped flour on her apron, gestured for Sarah to sit. Maria Castellano, beautiful woman. Came from Sicily with nothing, married the wrong man. Domenico Castellano Sr. She said the name like a curse. He beat her for 14 years. Every day, some days worse than others. Sarah's stomach turned. And Dominic? He was just a boy. Watched it all. Helpless. When he was 14, there was a fight. Worse than usual. Maria fell, hit her head, died right there on the kitchen floor while her son held her. Mrs. Romano's eyes glistened. 2 years later, when Dominic was 16, he killed his father. 23 stab wounds. Police ruled it self-defense, but everyone knew. The boy waited until he was strong enough. Then he took his revenge. Sarah pressed her hand to her mouth. The old boss of the Castellano family, no blood relation, just the same name, saw something in him, took him in, trained him. When that man died, Dominic inherited everything. Now he runs half of Chicago. Mrs. Romano met Sarah's eyes. But he has one rule that never bends. No violence against women or children. Ever. Anyone in his organization breaks that rule, they disappear. It's the only piece of his humanity he has left. Sarah sat back, processing. Understanding now why Dominic had opened his car door that night. Why he'd brought them here. They weren't charity. They were his penance. Where is he now? Sarah asked. His mother's room. He goes there on difficult days. Hasn't changed it in 22 years. Won't let anyone inside except to dust. Sarah found herself walking upstairs before she could think better of it, down the east wing to a door at the end. It was closed, but she could see light underneath. She knocked softly. Silence. Then, "Come in." Sarah opened the door and stopped. The room was frozen in time. Floral curtains, faded with age. A simple bed with a handmade quilt. Photos on the dresser. A dark-haired woman with sad eyes. A small boy who would grow into the man Sarah knew. Everything was clean but untouched. A shrine. Dominic sat in a chair by the window, holding a photograph. He didn't look up when she entered. "Mrs. Romano told me," Sarah said quietly, "about your mother. Then you know why I have the rule." Sarah moved closer, saw the photo in his hands. Maria Castellano, smiling in the picture, holding a young Dominic. Maybe 5 years old. Both of them looked happy. Before it all went wrong. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "I'm sorry no one helped her. I was there, every day. I heard her crying at night. Heard him hitting her. Heard her beg him to stop. His voice was hollow. I was too small, too weak. I couldn't do anything. Sarah did something brave then, something foolish. She reached out and took his hand. Dominic's fingers tightened around hers, crushing almost. Like he was drowning, and she was the only thing keeping him above water. "You were a child," Sarah said. "It wasn't your responsibility to save her." "Whose was it then?" He finally looked at her, and Sarah saw wetness on his cheeks. This man who never showed weakness, crying. The neighbors who heard and did nothing. The teachers who saw the bruises. The police who came once and left because my father said everything was fine. Sarah knew that story, had lived a version of it herself. The world fails women like your mother, like me. We're supposed to protect ourselves from men who are stronger, who have all the power. And when we can't, everyone asks why we didn't try harder. You did try. You ran. After 4 years. After I'd been hospitalized twice. After my daughter watched me get choked unconscious. Sarah's voice broke. "I'm not brave. I'm a coward who should have left the first time he hit me." "No." Dominic stood, still holding her hand, pulling her closer. "You're a survivor. There's a difference." They stood inches apart, his hand warm around hers, her heart pounding. This was dangerous territory. She barely knew him. He was a criminal, a killer. But she saw herself in his eyes, saw the same pain, the same scars. "Your ex-husband," Dominic said quietly. "What's his full name?" "Travis Mitchell. Why?" "Because I'm going to make sure he never finds you." "Dominic." "Not like that. I won't kill him. I know you wouldn't want that." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "But I have resources. Ways to make sure he stops looking. Legal ways." "Why would you do that?" "Because I couldn't save my mother. But I can save you." Sarah should have argued, should have said she didn't need saving. But, standing in this room full of grief, holding the hand of a man who understood her pain, she let herself accept the truth. Sometimes survival meant letting someone else help carry the weight. 2 weeks passed. Sarah stopped saying they would leave tomorrow. Lily stopped asking when they were going home. The mansion became their refuge, and slowly, imperceptibly, became something more. Home. Dominic came back earlier from his meetings, joined them for dinner every night, read to Lily before bed, and sometimes, late at night, Sarah would find him in the library, and they would talk. About everything. About nothing. about the people they used to be before violence carved them into survivors. Sarah felt herself falling, not just into safety, into something deeper, more dangerous. The way Dominic looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. The way his hand would brush hers when he passed her coffee. The way he'd positioned himself between her and any man who entered the mansion. Instinctive protection. She knew better. Knew this couldn't last. Men like Dominic didn't get happy endings with women like her. But late at night, watching him read fairy tales to her daughter, she let herself pretend. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was helping Mrs. Romano prepare lunch when Dominic's study door slammed open. He strode out, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. His face was stone, but his eyes blazed with something that made Sarah's stomach drop. He ended the call, looked directly at her. "We need to talk. Now." Sarah followed him into his study, heart pounding. The door closed behind them, and Dominic turned to face her. "Travis Mitchell made contact with one of my business associates. He's looking for you, asking questions, offering money for information." The room tilted. Sarah gripped the back of a chair. "How did he find—" "He didn't. Not yet. But he knows you're in Chicago. He's working his way through neighborhoods, using his old police. Connections to check security footage, ATM cameras." Dominic's jaw was tight. "It's only a matter of time. I have to leave, tonight, before he finds this place." "No. Dominic, you don't understand. Travis won't just take me back, he'll kill me. And anyone who helped me." Her voice rose. "He's insane. He has nothing to lose. If he finds out I'm here, let him come." Dominic's voice was cold steel. "This is my territory, my house. I have 40 men within 10 minutes of here. Travis Mitchell is one ex-cop with a grudge. He's more than that. He's smart, connected, and he's obsessed." Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. "I won't put Lily in danger. I won't put you in danger. You're not putting anyone in danger. I am choosing to protect you." "Why?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this? We're nothing to you. Just strangers you picked up in an alley. You don't owe us anything." Dominic crossed the space between them in 2 strides, gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You're not nothing. You stopped being nothing the moment I saw you put yourself between your daughter and danger. When I watched you prioritize her survival over your pride. When you knocked on a stranger's window because you were brave enough to ask for help. That's not brave. That's desperation. It's both." His hands gentled on her shoulders. "And you're not strangers anymore. You and Lily, you're—" He stopped, struggled with words he didn't know how to say. "What?" Sarah whispered. "What are we?" "Mine to protect." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither wanted to examine. Sarah's breath caught. She should pull away, should maintain distance. But she leaned into his touch instead, letting herself take strength from this dangerous man. A scream shattered the moment. "Mama!" Sarah ran, burst into Lily's room to find her daughter thrashing in bed, caught in a nightmare. "No! Don't hurt Mama! Don't! Baby, I'm here. I'm here." Sarah gathered Lily into her arms, rocking her. The child sobbed against her chest, small body shaking. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Lily saw him and reached out instinctively. "Dom, tell the bad man to go away." Something cracked in Dominic's expression. He moved to the bed, sat beside them. "The bad man can't hurt you here, Piccola. I promise. He hurt Mama before. He'll do it again." "No." Dominic's voice was absolute. "Never again." Lily looked up at him with those big, trusting eyes. "Promise?" "I promise." Sarah held her daughter while Dominic stayed close, his presence solid and reassuring. Eventually, Lily calmed, exhaustion pulling her back toward sleep. "Stay," Lily mumbled, holding onto Dominic's sleeve. "Please stay." He looked at Sarah, asking permission. She nodded. They sat together on the bed, Lily between them, until she slept again. Sarah's hand somehow ended up in Dominic's. His thumb traced circles on her palm, the touch grounding. "I won't let him take you," Dominic said, quietly. "Either of you. You can't promise that." "Yes, I can." He squeezed her hand. "Trust me, Sarah. Let me protect you the way no one protected my mother." Sarah looked at this man who'd built walls around his heart, who'd lived in darkness for 20 years, who was cracking open for a woman and child he barely knew. "Okay," she whispered. "I trust you." It was the most terrifying thing she'd ever said. The attack came 3 days later, when Sarah had almost let herself believe they were safe. It was late afternoon. Sarah was reading in the library while Lily napped upstairs. Dominic was in a meeting with his underboss in the study. Normal day. Peaceful. Then gunfire erupted. Sarah's blood froze. She knew that sound. Had heard it too many times on the news, in Travis's war stories, in her nightmares. She ran for the stairs, for Lily, but a hand grabbed her arm. "This way." One of Dominic's guards, pulling her toward the safe room Dominic had shown her the first week. "Just in case." "My daughter. Boss is getting her. Move." More gunfire, shouting. Sarah let herself be pushed into the reinforced room, but she didn't go far. Through the crack in the door, she saw chaos. Men in tactical gear pouring through the breached front entrance. Not Dominic's men. Others. And leading them, gun in hand, face twisted with rage. Travis. He looked exactly as she remembered. Sandy hair, average height, unremarkable except for the madness in his eyes. The man who'd promised to love her and instead spent 4 years breaking her. "Sarah." His voice echoed through the mansion. "I know you're here. Come out or I start shooting everyone I see." Dominic appeared at the top of the stairs. Lily clutched against his chest. The little girl had her face buried in his shoulder, small body trembling. He moved with lethal grace, calculating, 2 of his guards flanking him. Travis's gun swung up. "Put down my daughter." "She's not yours anymore," Dominic said, voice cold. "You lost that, right when you put your hands on her mother." "You don't know what you're talking about. Sarah is my wife, Lily is my daughter, and I'm taking them home. Over my dead body." Travis smiled. "That can be arranged." More of Travis's men appeared, 5, 6, 7. Ex-military from the look of them. Mercenaries Travis had bought with whatever money he'd scraped together. They had Dominic outnumbered. Sarah made her choice. She stepped out of the safe room. "Sarah, no!" The guard behind her hissed, but she was already moving. "I'm here, Travis." Her voice shook, but held. "Let everyone go. This is between us." Travis's face lit up with sick triumph. "There she is, my beautiful wife. Did you really think you could leave me? That I wouldn't find you?" "I'm not your wife. Haven't been for 2 months. The divorce papers are filed." "Papers don't mean anything. You're mine, forever." He took a step toward her. "Now come here before people start dying." Dominic shifted, moving to block Sarah. Lily whimpered against his chest. "Mommy?" The small voice broke something in the room. Travis's eyes moved to his daughter, and for a second Sarah saw something flicker. Not love, possession. "Lily, baby, come to Daddy." Lily turned her face slightly, saw Travis, and pressed harder against Dominic. "No." Travis's expression darkened. "Lily, now." "She doesn't want to go with you," Sarah said. "And neither do I." "You don't have a choice." "Yes," Sarah said, surprised by her own steadiness. I do. For the first time in 4 years, I choose. And I choose to stay here, with people who treat us like human beings, not property. Travis raised his gun, pointed it at Dominic. Step away from my family. Everything happened fast. Dominic's guards moved, weapons raised. Travis's men responded. But before anyone could fire, Mrs. Romano appeared from the kitchen hallway, cast iron pan in hand, and swung it at the nearest mercenary's head. The man dropped. Chaos erupted. Sarah ran for the stairs, for Lily. Dominic met her halfway, pressing her daughter into her arms. Get to the safe room, now. Not without you. A shot rang out. Dominic jerked, stumbled. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. Travis stood with his smoking gun, face triumphant. Now, Travis said, advancing. You're going to watch me take back what's mine. But Dominic didn't fall. He straightened, blood running down his arm, eyes absolutely cold. Wrong. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Travis froze. What did you... Called them 20 minutes ago, Dominic said. Gave them everything. Your location, your illegal weapons, your assault on a private residence, and evidence of 4 years of domestic violence against your ex-wife. He smiled, sharp and dangerous. I told you. This is my territory, my city, my rules. The sirens screamed up the driveway. Travis's men scattered, abandoning him. He stood alone, gun wavering between Dominic and Sarah, realizing too late he'd walked into a trap. You bastard! Drop the weapon. Dominic's voice was absolute command. It's over. You're going to prison for a very long time. And if you ever come near Sarah or Lily again, the police will be the least of your problems. Travis's hand shook. For a second, Sarah thought he might shoot anyway, might take them all down with him. But then armed police poured through the doors, and his gun clattered to the floor. They took him away in handcuffs, screaming threats, promises of revenge. Sarah held Lily tight, watching him go, not feeling triumph, just exhaustion. When the police finally left, when the statements were given and the paramedic had bandaged Dominic's shoulder, Sarah found him in his study, staring out the window. You're hurt, she said. I've had worse. You called the police, risked exposing your business. Worth it. He turned to look at her. To keep you safe. Worth everything. Sarah crossed the room, stood before him, raised her hand to his cheek. Thank you for not killing him. You didn't want me to. And you listened. She smiled, tears streaming. You chose us over everything else. Dominic pulled her close, careful of his injury, and Sarah let herself be held. Let herself believe, finally, that she was truly free. 6 months passed like a dream Sarah kept waiting to wake from, but she never did. Travis was sentenced to 12 years for assault with a deadly weapon, breaking and entering, and multiple counts of domestic violence charges that Sarah finally pressed. The divorce finalized, restraining orders filed, evidence so overwhelming that his lawyer advised him to take the plea deal. Sarah testified in court, standing in front of him one last time, speaking her truth without shaking. When she walked out of that courtroom, Lily holding her hand, she felt lighter than she had in years. Dominic had been there, sitting in the back, watching. When their eyes met, he nodded once, proud. They returned to the mansion that was no longer just his. It was theirs now. Dominic had given Sarah real work, helping him manage the legitimate side of his businesses, the restaurants and properties he used for laundering. She discovered she was good at numbers, at organization, good at things she'd never had the chance to try. Mrs. Romano taught her to cook proper Italian food. Lily started preschool at a private institution where Dominic's money ensured she received the best care. The nightmares came less frequently. The little girl, laughed more, played more, grew into the child she was meant to be. And Sarah? Sarah learned to live without looking over her shoulder. She and Dominic circled each other like magnets, drawn together, but afraid to collide completely. He still read to Lily every night, still joined them for dinner, still found excuses to be near Sarah. His hand on her lower back when they walked, his coat draped over her shoulders when she was cold, his eyes following her across every room. They hadn't kissed since that night in his mother's room when he'd held her hand. Hadn't crossed the line from protection into something more. But the tension built, thick and heavy, until Sarah thought she might break from wanting him. It was Mrs. Romano who finally said something. "You love him," the older woman said one morning, catching Sarah staring out the window where Dominic was teaching Lily to build a snowman in the garden. Sarah didn't deny it. "I do." "Then tell him. What if it ruins everything? What if I'm just grateful? What if he doesn't feel the same?" Mrs. Romano laughed. "Child, that man looks at you like you hung the moon. He's just afraid. Doesn't know how to love someone without it being violent. You need to show him it can be different." That night, after Lily was asleep, Sarah found Dominic in his mother's room. He went there less now, but still sometimes when the weight of his past grew too heavy. "Can I come in?" she asked. He nodded. She sat beside him on the bed, looking at the photographs of Maria Castellano. "She would have liked you," Dominic said quietly. "I wish I could have met her. She would have been proud of what you did, how you protected your daughter." He turned to look at Sarah. "How you survived." "I survived because you helped me. You survived because you're strong." Sarah took his hand, laced their fingers together. "Dominic, I need to tell you something." His body tensed. "Okay. I love you." The words came out simple, honest. "Not because you saved me, not because you gave us a home, but because of who you are. The way you are with Lily. The way you've never once made me feel weak for being afraid. The way you let me see your scars and trusted me with them." Dominic stared at her, speechless. His throat worked. "You don't have to say it back," Sarah continued. "I just needed you to know that I choose you. Not because I need protection, but because I want you in my life, in our lives." "Sarah." His voice was rough. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be gentle. How to be good for you. You're already good for me. You're good for Lily. You're more gentle than you know." She smiled. "You just need to trust yourself." Dominic cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "I love you. God help me. I fell in love with you the moment you knocked on my window and asked for nothing except warmth for your daughter. I've been terrified every day since that I'd become what I hate, that I'd hurt you somehow. You won't. I know you won't." Sarah leaned into his touch. "You're not your father, and I'm not your mother. We're different. We're choosing each other." He kissed her then, finally, soft and careful and full of everything they'd both been too afraid to feel. Sarah melted into him, tasting salt. His tears or hers, she didn't know. When they pulled apart, Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. "Marry me." Sarah laughed through her tears. "That's not a question." "Then I'm asking. Marry me, Sarah. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I can be the man you and Lily deserve." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." 2 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after that frozen night in the alley, Dominic took Sarah back to where it all began. The black car idled in the same spot. Snow fell softly, transforming the alley into something almost beautiful. "Why here?" Sarah asked. because this is where my life changed. Dominic opened the car door, helped her out, into the cold. Where you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. He knelt down in the snow, pulled a small velvet box from his coat. The ring inside caught the dim streetlight, diamonds surrounded by sapphires. I'm still a dangerous man, Sarah. I can't change that. My past won't disappear. But I can promise you this. I will protect you and Lily with everything I have. I will never raise my hand to either of you. I will love you both with whatever pieces of my heart you haven't already taken. His voice broke. Will you marry me? Will you let me be Lily's father? Will you give me the family I never thought I'd deserve? Sarah dropped to her knees in the snow beside him, taking his face in her hands. We already are your family. Have been since the moment you opened this car door. The ring just makes it official. He slid it onto her finger, kissed her in the falling snow. And Sarah thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Desperate, broken, running. She'd knocked on a stranger's window begging for warmth and found everything instead. 3 months later, they married in a small ceremony. Mrs. Romano cried. Lily was flower girl, taking her job very seriously. And when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Dominic's entire organization stood silent, 40 dangerous men giving their blessing. Sarah became Sarah Castellano. Dominic legally adopted Lily. The little girl got the father she deserved, and the man who'd lived in darkness for 22 years finally found light. On their wedding night, after Lily was asleep, Sarah and Dominic stood in what had been his mother's room. He'd finally been ready to transform it. Now it was Lily's room, painted pink, filled with toys and books and laughter. She would have loved this, Sarah said quietly. Dominic wrapped his arms around her from behind. I think she would have loved you more. They stood there, looking at the room that was no longer a shrine to pain, but a celebration of new beginnings. Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expected. Sometimes they're the ones the world told us to fear. And sometimes, that's exactly who we need. Sarah once believed that survival meant staying invisible, staying silent, never asking for help. She thought strength meant doing it alone. But she learned that night in the snow that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is knock on a stranger's window and admit you can't survive on your own. And Dominic? He spent 22 years believing he was too broken for redemption. That violence had poisoned him beyond saving. But 2 people, a desperate mother and a fevered child, showed him that the strongest thing he'd ever do wasn't ruling an empire. It was kneeling on the floor to build blocks with a little girl who wasn't afraid of him. Maybe that's what all of us are searching for. Not perfection. Not someone who'll never hurt us. Just someone brave enough to choose us, to fight for us when we're too tired to fight for ourselves, to offer warmth when the world is cold. If this story touched something inside you, if it made you believe that even broken people deserve second chances, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment with your thoughts. We read every single one. Hit that like button to support more stories that matter, and subscribe to Redemption Chronicles because we bring you new emotional journeys every day. Stories about love, hope, and the courage to start over. Before you go, check out our next video, or explore our full playlist for more tales of unexpected love and hard-won redemption. Thank you for being here with us, for believing in second chances, for understanding that sometimes the most dangerous people have the most beautiful hearts. Good night, and remember, it's never too late to knock on the right door. Stay safe, stay hopeful, and never stop believing in love.